Good morning, King George County Schools. It's Monday, January 9th, and welcome to this week's edition of Ask the Superintendent. I'm joining you this morning from a hotel room in Richmond. All state superintendents, all 132 state superintendents across the state are meeting in Richmond today to get our first indication of how the state budget is going to look for this coming year. So we're going to take a look at the health of the state budget. We're also going to take a look at the priorities that we're going into this General Assembly session with as far as education is concerned. So stay tuned. The next couple months will certainly have a lot of information pertaining to our local budget in King George County Schools as it pertains to education. So this week, it's our first full week. It's January 9th, first full week of school returning from the new year. And students and parents, if we're still setting New Year's resolutions, I've got one that I would please ask that you put on your list. Attendance. Make sure you are coming to school. Students that are older in age, high school students, I'm talking to you. Make sure that you're coming to school every day. Attendance matters for every student every day. Parents of the younger ones, make sure you get your students to school. Just real quickly, there's a lot of research out there that has to do with attendance and some of the factors that contribute to poor attendance to school. So a student who misses just 2 days of school per month, 4 things are typical of that, which you can find this information in our student code of conduct. A student will fall behind in math and reading. A student could potentially be retained. There's a higher likelihood of a student dropping out of school, and this one's a little scary, even become more involved in the criminal justice system if they miss just 2 days of school a month, which ends up being about 20 days of school a year, which is over 10%. One of the factors that, or statistics that always rings true to me or brings this point home is that of the 13 years a student goes to school, if they miss an average of 13 days of school a year, by the time they've graduated from high school, they have missed an entire year of school. So attendance matters. Please make sure you get your students to school, every student, every day. So thank you for that. Now this week we did have one question for the Ask the Superintendent, so I want to go ahead and answer that. And the question is, does King George County Schools participate in a zero tolerance policy in regards to weapons? So for those who don't know what a zero tolerance policy is, what a zero tolerance policy is it takes the decision-making factors when it comes to a weapon violation out of the hands of the school board, out of the hands of school officials, and if there is an infraction, there is an automatic penalty. King George County Schools does not participate in a zero tolerance policy. We do have a policy on weapons. It is in our policy manual. It can be found online. So if you go to King George County Schools policy manual online under the student section, you will find a policy. Let me just navigate to it here. The policy is JFCD, and the policy is titled Weapons in School, and it talks about very thoroughly the policies and procedures that we follow when it comes to weapons in school if we have a situation like that. And quickly, the reason that we do like to have that decision-making power in the hands of our school board and in the hands of our school officials is, in my short time or long time at this point, 20-some years in education, there's been situations where we wouldn't want a cookie-cutter approach to responding to weapons in school. I had a situation years ago where a young man had a shotgun shell that was left in his vehicle in the school parking lot. I had a situation where a young student got a pocket knife, folding pocket knife for Christmas, and came and wanted to show his buddies at school. So typically when you would have an infraction like that with a zero tolerance policy, it would be you brought a weapon to school, you are expelled from school. There's a lot of nuances and a lot of considerations, and we certainly want to put all of that information in the hands of our decision makers in the school division. And really, when we put all of that information in the hands of our decision makers, there's 2 things that we consider to be most important when making a decision. Number 1, the safety and security of every student in the school building and staff member in the school building, number 1. But number 2, we want to certainly take care of that child that has brought the weapon and consider all the considerations that were involved in that decision. and at the end of the day, certainly not exclude that child from an education. And it doesn't mean the education's in the school building, but like I said, we certainly want to take care of that child in this decision-making process as well. So those two things are fully considered, fully vetted, fully discussed, and even prior to that. So let me back up. If there is a weapons infraction, or if there's an infraction of really any of the 12 rules that you can find in the Student Code of Conduct, there is typically 99% of the time a 10-day suspension so that we can pause, take a look at the totality of the situation, slow down and make sure we understand all the components of that situation. And then from there, it's typical that we would recommend that the school board hear the case or hear the facts in the situation before we make any further disciplinary decisions. So those things happen all the time. As far as our process for handling these type of situations, weapons in schools, you can take a look at the King George County Schools Code of Conduct, which is available online. If you go to the King George County Schools webpage, you can navigate to Student Services, and within Student Services, you're going to see the 2022-2023 Student and Family Handbook and the Student Code of Conduct. So the Student Code of Conduct is the section that you would be most interested in. I appreciate the question this week. Thank you so much, guys. I continue to hope that you guys ask me questions. This is certainly a good one. And I'll see you next week, hopefully with some more questions to answer. And have a wonderful first full week of 2023. Make sure you get your students to school. Remember, attendance matters. Thank you.